Millennium Actress is the Satoshi Kon film people talk about the least, but it might be the one that cuts the deepest. Paprika leaves you overwhelmed, Perfect Blue leaves you paranoid, but Millennium Actress is just different. It's slow, it takes its time to develop, and it's easily the least approachable of Kon's movies and asks the most out of the audience to fully understand its themes. And the first time I saw it, I thought it was Satoshi Kon's weakest film, and of all of his movies, it's the one I enjoyed the least. But here's the thing, Millennium Actress isn't trying to shock you, it isn't trying to twist your mind into knots, it simmers, it's a slow build, and even if you don't find it impactful on the first viewing, you may have a completely different experience in the future, because Millennium Actress isn't like most movies. It isn't telling a story from beginning to end. Instead, it tells the story of a whole life. And at first that can feel almost underwhelming, but the longer you sit with it, the more eye-opening it becomes. Millennium Actress covers the life of Chiyoko Fujiwara, a legendary actress who disappeared from the spotlight decades ago. Two documentarians track her down, hoping to hear about her career and why she walked away, but instead of a simple interview, they get swept into her memories. And what unfolds isn't just the story of an actress, it's the story of a woman who spent her entire life chasing a dream of love she could never reach. And that's what makes Millennium Actress so unique. Kon's other films grab you with spectacle or humor or engaging characters, and this one doesn't. At first, it almost feels too quiet, like nothing is really happening, but the longer you sit with it, the heavier it gets, and the more you realize just how incredibly well written it really is. Millennium Actress isn't just trying to give you a plot, it's trying to make you feel the weight of a lifetime. It makes you experience how memory twists and folds, how a single dream can define everything you do, and how a pursuit can matter even more than the destination. And maybe that's why it feels so different. When you're young, you don't really have the perspective to see the weight of a lifetime. You haven't gone through enough yet, enough heartbreaks or chapters or losses to know what it means to look back. But if you come back to Millennium Actress later with more years behind you, the film hits a lot stronger. Between the last time I saw it 3 years ago and now, I can feel a massive difference in how I reacted to it. It doesn't shock you into paying attention, it doesn't keep you engaged with visuals or humor, it sneaks up on you, and then it wrecks you if you have the experience to relate to it. And that's the magic of this movie. It's one about living with purpose, something that we all struggle with more and more as we get older, and it challenges you to see the meaning in chasing a dream that just never comes true. It argues that a life defined by what we chase is not lesser, but equally valuable to a life defined by what we have achieved. And yet from another perspective, that same life looks wasted, depressing, and a failure. This movie might make you hopeful, or it might break your heart, or both. This is Millennium Actress. Let's get into it. Hey, quick break. You've probably noticed this shirt I'm wearing. It's called the Eternal Blossom Tee from Into the AM. And before you ask, no, it is not AI art. People always assume that these sick graphics are machine made, but Into the AM works with real, actual, live artists. This one is all hand drawn. And I get it. The print screen's pressed, the fabric feels way better than the stuff I used to grab off the rack, and it just fits right. Into the AM has a ton of designs like this, and I can personally guarantee their quality. Tyler's been buying their stuff for years. It's really that good. I can't recommend their shirt enough, especially this one. If you want to grab one, hit the link in the description so they know we sent you, and you'll automatically get 10% off. I've watched this one like 4 or 5 times at this point. The graphic looks exactly the way it used to. No peeling, no flaking. Again, the link is in the description. Check it out. Their stuff is seriously worth buying if you're a graphic tee person, and even if you're not, they got plain tees with a small logo. But with all that said, thank you so much, Into the AM, for sponsoring us. Now let's get back to the video. Most movies are built on a simple formula, beginning, middle, and end, but Millennium Actress doesn't work like that. It moves like memory, one where you're in Chiyoko's childhood, the next you're on a movie set, the next you're on a battlefield hundreds of years ago. Past and present, cinema and reality all bleed together until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And that's the point. Our lives don't feel like tidy scripts either. None of us remember things perfectly, and when you think back on your own past, you probably do not replay it chronologically. perfectly. You remember the moments that mattered. You skip years in an instant. Sometimes you even confuse what actually happened with the way that you tell the story. Millennium Actress captures that better than almost any other movie has. And that's part of why the movie feels so strange the first time you see it. If you're expecting a clear narrative, it can feel confusing, but once you understand that it's not about plot, but about showing how a lifetime actually feels, it clicks. What Kon is doing is no less ambitious than his other works, but I would argue that it is more human and more emotional as a result. The brilliance of Kon's approach is that Chiyoko's film roles start to blend with her real life when she chases after her first love through feudal Japan or across a battlefield. Those scenes are not literal, they are the way her dream of him bleeds into everything she does. Her acting becomes another way of living that pursuit, and in turn, her pursuit fuels her acting. For her, memory and cinema are inseparable things. And this structure makes sense once you know the heart of Chiyoko's story. As a teenager, she meets a revolutionary painter on the run from the authorities during the 1930s. She helps him hide, and he shows Chiyoko a key around his neck that unlocks the most important thing in the world. However, the painter's hiding spot gets found, and he has to flee, accidentally dropping the key in the process. Chiyoko finds it and vows to give it back to him, and that single encounter, brief as it was, changes everything. Despite never even learning his name, Chiyoko spends the rest of her life chasing after him, carrying that key as a reminder of that dream. And in pursuit of that dream, she becomes an actress, which gives her the freedom to travel Japan in search of this man. Her career, her fame, even her legacy are inseparable from that one moment. Every role she takes, every stage she stands on is fueled by her devotion to a man she barely knew but fell in love with in an instant. And that's what makes the movie so devastating. It's not a film about one dramatic event, it's a film about the way a single fleeting moment shapes an entire lifetime. At the heart of Millennium Actress is that key. On the surface, it's just a little trinket, a mystery, a revolutionary painter left behind, but for Chiyoko it becomes everything. It's her dream, her first love, her entire reason for living, and that first love matters because first love has a purity you never get back. It comes before heartbreak, before compromise, before you learn how messy relationships really are. Most people lose that innocence. They let their childhood dreams shrink under the weight of bills and jobs and expectations, but Chiyoko never lets go. The key is proof that once she felt something so pure and so powerful that it defined the rest of her life. So acting becomes both a means to support her search, but also a way to express her emotions for this painter. In her very first acting role, she learns that acting isn't about faking emotion, but finding those feelings within yourself through your own experiences and relating your emotions to the character you're playing. Her love for the painter, her desire to chase him and find him, becomes a backbone for her emotional impact on screen. That authenticity pushes her success to movie star status. This man she knew for a single day becomes the muse that brings out those exceptional performances. But there is a cost. Because she never stops chasing the painter, she never lets anyone else in. She does marry once, but only after the key is stolen from her, and that moment says everything. Without her dream to hold on to, she settles. It's extremely symbolic that she held on to her dream until she lost the symbolic version of it. And she eventually finds that her own husband was the one that stole the key, and her fire reignites once she finds it again. But this pursuit comes with a massive cost. Her longing gives the world something timeless, but it also costs her the chance to share her life with someone who could actually be there. And the tragedy is, she did have someone who could have been there for her. The director interviewing her, Genya Tachibana, has loved her for decades. He worked on her old movie sets, and he even saved her life once when an earthquake brought down a bunch of equipment on top of her during a shoot. During that accident, Chiyoko lost her key once more, but she never returned to acting after the earthquake. Genya found her key and kept it for 30 years. He carried that love silently, the same way she carried her dream of the painter. He could have given it back, he could have used it to step into her life, but he never did. And in his silence, the key becomes a symbol of not just of Chiyoko's unfulfilled pursuit, but of his own. She spent her life chasing a love she could never reach. He spent his life holding on to a love he never even confessed. Kon makes that parallel even clearer in the way Chiyoko's memories play out. Unlike the cameraman who is always in regular clothing and doing his role of filming, Genya constantly steps in as the samurai, the soldier, the man who saves her life in each movie. In her story, he's the one who's constantly rescuing her, showing just how perfectly he could have slotted into her real life. but he never did. He never gained the courage until it was far too late. What makes Chiyoko's love so striking is that it never bends and it never breaks, never even sours, and the reason is simple. She never even really knew the person she was in love with. She never even learned his name. All she had was a brief encounter, a promise, and the key and the mark he left behind. That distance preserved him. Real relationships get messy. People argue, they disappoint each other, they grow apart. Even the happiest couples discover cracks with time. But the painter in Chiyoko's heart stays perfect because he never had the chance not to be perfect. Her image of him is frozen in that moment of kindness, untouched by compromise or heartbreak. And that is why her devotion can look so enviable from the outside. Who wouldn't want to hold on to a love that pure? But it is also why it can never be real. She falls in love not just with a man, but the belief of a man, and beliefs don't change, they don't age, they just linger forever uncorrupted, even as the years take everything else away. Most of us spend our lives learning that love cannot survive in that perfect honeymoon state. Chiyoko's did, but only because she never actually touched that love. She carried it with her for a lifetime, but only by never touching it again. She spends her entire life chasing a man she'll never see again. That is already heartbreaking, but Kon does not stop there because he is Satoshi Kon. He shows us even how that dream, the thing she carried through every season of her life, begins to fade at the end. By the time we meet her in the present, Chiyoko is old, her health is failing, her memory slips in and out, the purity she held on to for decades, the one thing that defined her more than anything else, is slowly being stolen by time. Not by choice, not by compromise, but by age itself. She was strong enough to hold on to her dream through war, through fame, through disappointment and loneliness, but no one is strong enough to hold on to memory forever. We decompose. The painter she loved, the keys she carried, even the feelings that shaped her films, they all flicker in and out. It's implied she likely has an elderly memory illness like Alzheimer's or dementia, but what she remembers today isn't guaranteed to be remembered tomorrow. And there's something unbearably cruel in that, to spend a lifetime devoted to one dream, only to have it stolen by the body and mind you just can't control. It turns her story from bittersweet into tragic. She can never reach him. She cannot even keep the memory of him safe. I've had multiple relatives and family members live for years with dementia. Tyler's grandparents both had it. We've seen exactly how terrible it is for people to forget who they are and what's important to them. For Chiyoko to hold on to this man her entire life, only for that memory to slowly be slipping away, for me, is the darkest part of the movie. But yet, even with all of that loss, even with all of the cruelty, Millennium Actress does not end in despair, because at the very end, Chiyoko says something that reframes everything we just saw. She admits that it was not the painter she loved most.
Because after all, it's the chase that I really love.
That single line transforms her story completely, because if you look at her life only as a failed pursuit, it seems wasted. She never found him, she never held him again. But if you see it as a lifetime defined by devotion, it becomes something else entirely. Every choice she made, every performance she gave, every place she traveled was fueled by that one dream. She may have never reached him, but the pursuit gave her life purpose. That's why the ending feels so bittersweet. On one hand, it's heartbreaking to realize she was chasing a ghost all along, but in the other, it's inspiring to see how much beauty came from that chase. Her films, her legacy, even her sense of self all trace back to that moment of pure first love. It was unreachable, but it was never meaningless. So Kon leaves us with a paradox. A life defined by achievement is easier to measure, right? You can count what was built, who was loved, what was left behind, but a life defined by pursuit is harder. From one angle, it looks empty. From another, it's radiant, and in Chiyoko's case, it's both. I think that's why Millennium Actress is going to stick with me longer than any of Kon's other films. It's not just about an actress or even about a love story, it's about how we live our lives, how we define them, and what happens to our dreams as we grow older. When we're young, our goals feel limitless. We want everything, but then the weight of life sets in: bills, jobs, expectations, families, responsibilities, and slowly, almost without noticing, we start to dream smaller. We stop chasing the impossible and start aiming for what feels safe, what feels realistic. Most of us let our childhood dreams fade, but Chiyoko never did. She carried hers until the very end. Even when it isolated her, even when it hurt her, even when it led nowhere, she refused to let go. And that's what makes her story so powerful, because it forces us to ask ourselves what we've given up. What have we let slip away in the name of being practical? Or what are we losing by choosing not to be practical? Some people say that contentment is degradation. You should always be achieving more. You should always be going for more. You should always be reaching higher, because if you've gotten to where you are, you prove that you can take those steps. And I don't know, maybe I'm feeling that more than usual right now, because this video is coming out on my birthday. Another year gone by. Another reminder that time moves fast and it never stops. Birthdays kind of have a way of making you look back and measure where you are versus where you thought you'd be. And when I look at Chiyoko, I see someone who never let the weight of age or expectations shrink the size of her dreams. She kept chasing until the very end. And for me, I mean, I didn't think I was gonna be anywhere at this point. I thought I'd be dead by the time I was like 25. Seriously, like, I legitimately thought that. I never thought I'd have an apartment. I never thought I'd have a job. I never thought I would have access to the things I have access for. So, or to. It's one of those things where I've achieved so much for me that I don't know what else I want. It was just saying something, because you know, it's not like I'm like wealthy. It's not like I'm even above the poverty line. It's just, it's so much better than I thought it would be. But Millennium Actress is devastating, because it shows both sides of these choices. From one perspective, Chiyoko wastes her life chasing someone already gone. And from another, she lives with more passion and devotion than most people ever know. Both are true, and both can be true at the same time. And maybe that's what Kon is really trying to tell us, that a life defined by what you chase is not lesser than a life defined by what you reach. That sometimes a pursuit is in itself enough. And that even if the dream slips through your fingers, the act of holding on to it can give your story a lot of meaning. So thanks everybody for keeping me company for another year. It's been a long one, but we're still here. We're still doing what we do. You're still watching, and thank you. I appreciate you a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.